your coffee. Yeah, it looks good.
Hey, Constance, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
That again? Is that good?
Nothing up my sleeve. Okay, well, anyway, yes, that's how it is every morning here.
Lon's outer strength has failed, so he's looking for his inner strength. Time for everyone who maybe they're worn out from the holidays to your outer strength has failed. Well, it always does. So time to dig deep into your inner strength today.
That's a good idea.
I'm going now to dig deeper to my inner strength.
Okay, thank you very much, Rocky. Anyway, here we are on Friday, the first Friday of the year. I'm going to just show you something. I'm going to pull a rabbit out of my hat. Actually, I'm going to pull a universe out of my hat. There are those that might think I'm pulling it out of something else. But that too. Okay. Malkuth is in Kether, as Kether is in Malkuth. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to draw, quickly draw a tree of life. Okay. As you know, almost every morning, I end up trying to explain something that usually doesn't have any relationship to the tree of life or Kabbalah or anything else. But I end up drawing a tree of life to show several things. And over the years, I've gotten really good at just, eyeballing a tree of life and throwing one together in just a few seconds. But usually the hardest part is to get it proportioned. There's 10 levels of a tree of life, and we can just look at that as 10 levels of frequency or of consciousness, from your head at the bottom to Godhead at the top. And there's 10 of them, okay, which it in a sense is the source number of the Kabbalah. And but 10 is actually just 4. Yod He Vav He. Okay, so if we thought about the creator, okay, Kabbalistically speaking, we've got Yod, He, Vav, and then He final. And that He final is treated a little differently, just like Malkuth, number 10 on the Tree of Life, is treated just a little bit differently, because it's the lowest of the low. It's the climax of the descent into matter. And that climax of the descent into matter triggers the whole thing over again, just like when a star of a certain magnitude finally has enough mass that it crushes, the gravity crushes in on itself, in a sense, creating its own singularity, and all of the elements, turn into the hardest thing that they can. And when it hits that rock bottom, when a star hits the climax of the descent into its center, it explodes into like a supernova. And if there's a nearby hydrogen cloud in the vicinity, which there is, it creates like a new star nursery. So all of that stuff that was in the sediment of that lowest of the low gets reborn. Okay, so it's a wonderful thing, this Yod He Vav He thing. So and 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 is 10. It's just a nice, neat little thing. And there's just a way you can connect all of those uh, with 22 paths. And there's other ways to do it too. But wouldn't you like to just be able to quickly draw yourself a relatively neat looking tree of life if you don't have a protractor around, but if you've got something round. I was going to use this thing, but if you got a round thing like this beautiful Saturn, I'm choosing that for a reason. But anyway, and if you got a piece of paper of some kind, just draw a line down the middle of the tree of life, or your paper. It'll be a tree of life soon. And then draw a circle at the top. Now this is going to be really okay. Now you could look at that. Well, that's God. Okay, that's God. It's a singular. There isn't an up or a down. Okay, and that's a hey. Okay, we could call that one. Oh, excuse me. We could call that one a Yod. That's Mr. Yod. See, I'm pulling a universe out of my head. That's Yod. And that there ain't no anything else. Okay, this is the only thing we got to work with. This Yod. And there ain't no two. Because the one is so big, there's no room for a two. Okay? And we could stop our tree of life right there. But the whole idea is, well, how did all this seeming stuff comes from? Okay, I got this here, and I got this pen here that looks like there's two things. Well, it may appear that, but one has no two. It can only, in some weird imagination, reflect itself. Now, let's just call that little point there in the middle, let's call really that the singularity trying to reflect itself to the center, its infinite center, because the circumference is infinitely out. But let's just say the only way it can even attempt to become self-conscious of itself is to try to reflect itself, and the only place for it to reflect itself is in its own transcendent center. And we'll call that it hits dead center and goes, oh my God, that's what I am. Okay. And in a sense, that center becomes the top circumference of a more sort of illusionary, not quite illusionary, second circle. Okay. That's not really a two, it's the reflection of itself. And if you can look at that center there, look what it's created. It's created a vesica piscis. It's created a third thing there. A third thing that's just made up of the singularity and its reflection. It's almost like a stargate. It's a door. It's a portal, okay? But literally, that is the third condition. And when that third condition happens, it's reflected it creates another center right there. The center of that reflections center, like that. And that creates a third tree of life, or a third circle. Like that. And that is, the second one is the hay. Okay. And the third one is the vav of yod, hey, vav, hey. Like that. And in a sense, it creates another vesica, another portal and such. Okay. And that second portal, okay, there's two vesicas there. There's that vesica and that vesica. And we could go on about how the creation of that second vesica creates that inscrutable abyss kind of thing, but I'm not going to open up that can of worms there. Okay, so there's yod, hey, vav. Okay. Now, if we would create a third condition, or excuse me, a fourth, to synthesize that, we have our third circle to create the second hey. So there's our yod, hey, vav, hey. And all you had to do is take a quarter and a nickel or something, and look what you can make out of that. That first singularity, okay, doesn't even become one. One doesn't become aware of itself until it doesn't even have a placement for its first reflection unless there is number two. And it creates, finally, one has a name. And on either and the landmark of that doesn't even appear until that second circle that represents the hay, represents the first reflection, is formed, and then two other landmarks are formed, the tips of the vesica. The tips of the vesica. And it creates the supernal triad. That diagram right there, that first vesica that's created by the union of one reflecting itself, creates the supernal triad. And that supernal triad is not 1, 2, and 3 as we think about it. It is just one thinking about itself. 1, 2, 3. Well, like that. Now that same process that caused one to wish to be self-aware and reflect itself is now repeated in this whole supernal triad, wants to reflect itself. And that's why on the other side, the 4, 5, 6 is just the supernal triad reflecting itself. And this is like a mirror. The abyss is like a mirror. And there is Doth that's created by the second the He. Okay, so there, and that creates, and I'm going to put little dots around that where those two things meet. Okay, and then there is 4, 5, and 6. 4, 5, 6. Just like that. Now that inscrutable place where the circles actually seem to touch, the first one creates the abyss, the Da'ath, the special Sephirah. And the second one creates number 6, which is a direct reflection of the singularity of number 1. It's special. Okay. And I'm going to do that, that, and that. Using those new landmarks that are formed by the intersecting circles. Now, can you see how 6 is the bright reflection below the abyss? I'm going to draw an abyss there. Below the abyss. Now, that third condition, in a sense, the bottom of the vesica, that number 3, the whole echo of that pattern of 2, okay, 2 creating the 3, and all 3 of them conspiring to characterize what 1 is about, okay, happens again. And there's 3 more landmarks, and we have our 7, 8, and 9, like that. Now, that triad isn't really reflected. It's just repeated, just like 3 isn't a reflection. It's a repetition or a synthesis. Same way the third triad. Okay? And then right at the very bottom, where nothing seems to intersect except the central line that I artificially drew at first, that's number 10. So that's the tree of life. And everything is connected. We've already connected the triads. All we have to do is finish off the horizontal ones. And there we go. Okay. Just a straight line, a round circle, and there we have a tree of life. Not only do we have the Sephirah of the tree of life, we sort of understand how Yod, He, Vav, He, 4 circles, placed together with their circumferences intersecting the center of each circle, creates not only the 10 Sephiroth of the tree of life, but also Da'ath itself. Now, one way of looking at the creation of that, because look, number 10 is just hanging there. You know, I've often said number 10 and the princesses in the tarot are screwed. Okay. The 10th Sephirah is screwed. That's Malkuth, but Malkuth is in Kether, as Kether is in Malkuth, only after a different manner. First of all, the number 1 doesn't have the memory of that is stored up in number 10. But the number 10 is the climax of the descent of matter. That's where the magic happens, in that Hey final, or that final Hey. It's not really a final Hebrew letter. Okay? Bingo. That's where it hits rock bottom. That's where the star explodes again back into the hydrogen cloud. If we want, we could even call that hydrogen cloud the Hey, which is the element of primitive element of water. Okay, and that all starts over again. That's the creative cycle. Now, if we wanted to get just pure un-Malkuthian perfection, we'd just stick with the top triad, the second triad, and the third triad. That's 9. 9 is perfect. 9's the closest thing to 0 that you can get, okay? But there's no stuff yet. There's the archetype of stuff. There's a reflection of potential stuff. There's a synthesis of potential stuff, but there's no stuff. The climax of the descent of matter hasn't climaxed yet. It climaxes in that thing that doesn't seem to be connected to anything at the moment. Number 10. Now, if we could imagine, I'm going to do this here for a second. I'm going to kind of draw in that this thing that would sort of show that perfection happened. I'll just do it this way. Perfection happened like this. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be these 3. That would be a perfect tree of life. 9 of them. Okay, the singularity triad, the first reflected triad, and the repetition triad. The world is just happy without 10. No, there's no stuff. There's no climax of the descent of matter. How do we get 10 out of that? Okay, we get 10 out of that as if we had at the beginning just 3 repeated triads. Let's look at it this way. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's just say we have 3 repeated triads like that. Now, if a cosmic proctologist, where are we? If a cosmic proctologist would just reach up and grab the tip of that first repeated triad and pulled it down, flipping this one and flipping this one and creating a 10th one, which used to be this. And this then becomes this, and then an opening. A void opens up, creating the abyss, creating Da'ath, and creating a Malkuth. Like that. Malkuth, is responsible for the abyss, for the flipping of the triads, and the creation of stuff. That's why the crossing of the abyss, that looking glass area of the abyss, as far as your own consciousness is concerned, is right up there between the fleshly Buddha sitting under the tree and the awakened Buddha after the awakening. That is the spiritual crisis, in a good way, crisis. And that's why you hear so much mysterious stuff about crossing the abyss, because you're crossing into the consciousness of the singularity. And of course, you can see how the area of the Holy Guardian Angel is right up there as the first lower reflection of that on the tree. That's why those two crises are the magician's great work. Holy Guardian Angel, crossing the abyss. Reversing the process of the cosmic proctologist. Does that make any sense? Okay, if it doesn't, take a straight line and this, draw your four circles, create your own tree of life, and think on this. And until tomorrow and Saturday morning cartoons, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.